High FM, 101.9 megahertz of life.
I found this next conversation so interesting. And why? Why do I find it so interesting? Because to me, and I think to many of us here in South Africa, women in leadership positions within the Jewish community seems the most natural thing in the world. But actually, we shouldn't take it for granted because it hasn't always been that way. More than that, it is is perhaps quite different to organizations and communities around the world. Wendy Kahn is the National Director of the South African Jewish Board of Deputies. Wendy, a very, very good morning to you. I hope you are well and warm.
Good morning. I am well and I am warm. Thank you, Howard.
Brilliant. So take me through the changes that took place from a time when maybe women weren't in leadership positions in the Jewish community here in South Africa.
As I said in that article, I'm incredibly blessed. I came to the Jewish Board of Deputies at a time I followed the great Marlene Bethlehem, who had been in a senior leadership position in just around about the time of our new democracy, and really an extraordinary leader that has made such a difference in our world and has been followed, and I think that's the key, has been followed by so many phenomenal women. And I think that's not the case elsewhere. And, I go to a lot of conferences overseas, one of them with the World Jewish Congress, where I regularly go to conferences. And what's so interesting is that that many of our counterpart organizations are only now starting to get their first women into these kind of
That is so interesting.
positions.
That's what I wanted to ask you, is how we compare.
I always laugh, organizations like Conference of Presidents, the British Board of Deputies, the American Jewish Committee, to name just a few, are only now starting to have in the last few leadership elections, have only just started bringing in new leadership. Some organizations have none. And some of the European organizations in particular are really, really struggling. Women cannot move to the higher echelons of their organizations, to the extent that the World Jewish Congress set up a committee specifically aimed at looking at how to promote women within Jewish community organizations. And for us, that was such a foreign concept.
Well, that's what I was
It was just nothing that we had to even concentrate on.
Yeah, it was just not something that I had even considered because it is so normal here. Do you face this issue at all within the South African context?
We were in Rome a few years ago, and they asked Mary Klook, Karen Milne, and I to sit on a panel with young Jewish leaders, women leaders, and the questions that they were asking us, and that was one of the questions. They said, "There must have been times when you really struggled," and I turned around and I said, "In my entire, and I've been at the board now for 20 years,
right,
in this position."
Yes.
I can remember one situation of somebody who where they were making it impossible for me to function, and my leadership came down with a ton of bricks. They were not going to accept that. And they stood by me, and I've been able to continue in my role with that kind of support.
Do you think that was also strengthened by the Constitution, by non-racism, non-sexism as values within the South African framework?
You see, the thing is, you can have these things on paper and you can have these things in policy documents, but that doesn't mean on a day-to-day basis that they're going to be implemented. And I think for me, what I'm so proud of the Jewish Board of Deputies as the representative body of the community is that it's nothing that's ever had to be enforced.
Right.
It's something that's
natural.
the values of the people who sit around that table. They understand it. They understand those are the rules of engagement, where the informal rules of engagement where we sit. And I think that's. I mean, I would like to also just take it to the next step and say I'm also very proud of the young people we have on the board.
Yeah.
And our professional staff, we've got half of our professional staff are young people. And they bring and that's nothing that's contrived. That's nothing that we've had to set up subcommittees and have day workshops, and we've never had to do that. And again, some of my counterpart organizations have actually had to set up these kind of structures to bring young people in. So I think this is a really remarkable community that we should be very proud of.
I think so too. Sorry, carry on.
And I just also would like to mention that yesterday we went across to Pretoria, to the Union buildings for the Women's Day event. It was really interesting. They had Sophie de Bruyn, who's one of the last living women who marched on the Union buildings. And I think it's so important that we be at these important national events, but certainly within the values that we have within our community.
Absolutely incredible. Before I let you go, message to younger women in our community who are considering or who might not have considered getting involved with these with organizations?
I completely encourage them to. And I think my message is firstly to them, make the effort. You get such incredible rewards from being in communal leadership. But I think my message is also to those within communal organizations. Do your best to create environments that are welcoming spaces for women in our organizations.
Wendy Kahn, National Director of the South African Jewish Board of Deputies. Wonderful to chat to you and to hear how successful our organizations certainly have been with regard to the role of women in the organization.